Thank you, Brian. I'm calling to order the Finance Committee meeting on July 18th at 4 p.m. This is the public hearing on the warrant articles for the special town meeting of 2024. May I have an approval of the agenda, please?
Second.
Thank you. By roll call, Peter?
Aye.
Jill? Jeremy?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Joanna? Is she on? I'm not turning my head. Okay, all right, great. So, couple things first, just a housekeeping so I don't forget. As I said to you in the note today, we are canceling the 23rd, and I know that the reason I'm doing this first is because a couple of our members are going to have to drop off for recusals, so we're canceling the 23rd. And we are meeting on the 25th at 4 o'clock. The reason for that is the Sewer Commission deferred their review of the sewer articles last night until the 24th. And so we will not have their recommendation from that until sadly the 24th. So we're meeting on the 23rd. Okay, so that's the first piece. The second piece is.
You said you canceled the 23rd.
I canceled the 23rd and we're meeting on the 25th. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. And then secondly, tonight, because both Stephen and Chris will have to recuse at some point, I'm changing the order of the articles as I call them out. So I'm not going from 1 to 17, and I will go through the first batch that so I'll go for the first batch, everyone can stay. The second batch, Stephen leaves. The third batch, Chris leaves, because they will be recused at that point. So just so everybody understands why we're not going in order 1 to 17. Okay, so with that, the process will be, I will read out the article number and name, and if there's anyone from the public who'd like to speak, you get to speak for 3 minutes. And if we have questions for you then, we will ask them, otherwise we'll move on to the next article. Okay, everybody all set? Thank you. Okay, Article 8. Mary Bergman zoning bylaw amendment, issuance of building and use permits, demolition delay. We will be discussing this article on Monday, the 22nd, with the planning board's recommendation. Is there anyone, Brian, that wants to speak to this?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right. Article 9 is Stephen Cohen, zoning bylaw amendment, apartment community. Again, we will be talking about it on Monday, the 22nd. And anybody online, Brian?
No, madam. Yes, ma'am. One moment. Erica Mooney is her hand raised.
For Article 9, the zoning bylaw amendment, apartment community?
We'll bring her in and allow her to speak.
Yeah, please. And then she gets 3 minutes. I get to play with this little toy. Excellent. Look at that.
Hi, it's Erica Mooney.
Hi, Erica.
Hi, I just wanted to speak against Article 9. I talked about this at the planning board hearing on Monday. I think apartment community around the island as a whole is bad for Nantucket. And it brings the town overlay district into areas that are not meant to have aspects of the town overlay district into the country overlay district, being allowed in all zoning districts except for 2, whereas now apartment complexes or apartment buildings are only allowed in 3 commercial zoning districts total. I know that we are in need of housing, but I don't think that this is the way to do that, especially in areas that don't have sewer, don't have water, don't have access to public transportation, aren't near the school or the supermarket and things like that. So that's my take on it.
Thank you, Erica. We will be discussing it again on the 22nd, on Monday, with the planning board, with Dave Iverson, the chair, and Leslie. So if you'd also like to rejoin then, but thank you for sharing your thoughts today. Okay. Did anybody have any questions for Erica before we continue? Seeing none, okay, thank you. Article 10, it's Select Board sponsored zoning map change, CN to R5, 1 Beachgrass Road, again, Monday. It's a busy STM for zoning articles. Brian? Okay, thank you. Article 15 is Jillian Blois, I probably ruined her last name, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Town Sewer District Map Change, 42 Manhasset Road. We won't discuss that until the 25th now, 7:25, after the Sewer Commissioners meet on the 24th.
No one.
Thank you. Article 16, Hillary Rayport, Home Rule Petition, an act to amend the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission NP&EDC enabling legislation. We will be discussing that on the 22nd. Brian, looking at you.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Article 17, John Copenhaver, real estate acquisition, 81 Washington Street building. We already discussed this, and we were unanimous on motion, take no action.
No one raised their hand to speak.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, oops. Ooh, that's fun.
You've done a lot in 5 minutes.
Wow, actually 3 minutes. I had said it for, yeah. Dazzling. Stephen, I will now invite you to leave the building, because all the rest you are recused on. Thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing the little toy. Can I keep it until Monday?
Please, that is FinCom property.
Whoa, okay. We're gonna need an asset tag later, Brian. Yeah. Okay. Do you have to leave the room?
I'm going to be here to discuss it with the public.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Article 11, Stephen Morey, zoning map change, Lug 2 to R5 Skyline Drive. And that will be discussed on Monday. Again, Planning Board zoning article. As a member of the public, do you want to say anything now, or do you want to wait till Monday?
This is, I'm sorry, Skyline.
This is 11, yeah, this is Skyline Drive.
I am no longer representing this article or pursuing it.
Okay,
At Planning Board, I requested to take no action.
okay, perfect. Thank you. If you speak again, you have to leap up and talk at a microphone. Thank you. Make sure it gets, yes. Article 12, Stephen Morey, zoning map change, Lug 2 to R5, Woodland Drive, and R20 to R5. And it'll get discussed on Monday.
And I would like to speak on it, as long as we're here and moving quickly through the agenda.
Go ahead.
Great, thank you.
Wait, I get to use your little clock. This is excellent.
Brian, I sent you an email just a few minutes ago with you don't have access to email. Okay, I have handouts.
I'm not stopping the clock. It's too complicated. Thank you. Will you have this for Monday? Because unfortunately, the public can't see this.
Yes, I will have it for Monday, and I can email a copy to you so it can become part of the minutes for the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
This was shown on the screen very briefly during the planning board hearing, but given the lateness of the meeting and for some other reasons, we didn't talk much about it. But I think it's important to take this opportunity, and I will schedule other non-town sponsored but public information sessions about why I'm asking for this zoning change. I do recognize the neighbors' concerns about additional traffic and the impacts it will have on their neighborhood. And what I'm asking, and what I will be asking town meeting voters to consider in September, is whether the community benefit and the public good created by this proposed development outweighs some of those other concerns, which I hope could be mitigated by alternative access, perhaps not onto Woodland Drive or Skyline Drive. So what you have before you and what members of the public can see if they look at the recording of the planning board meeting, I think it's also in that packet, is a redevelopment of a 5-acre site, which is currently a junkyard. And this density that you see before you, which is 40 houses, a total of 80 bedrooms, this density is virtually identical to the density of structures at Sachem's Path. And we have 1.25 parking spaces, so that's a total of 100 parking spaces for 80 bedrooms. As a point of comparison, very recently, I think at the last annual town meeting, the planning board asked voters, and voters approved, a reduction in the required parking spaces for duplexes down to 0.75 spaces per bedroom. So again, we're providing 1.25 spaces per bedroom. In the bottom corner of the rendering plan here, you'll see something that's labeled Community Park. This development, in addition to the zoning change, would require special approval from the planning board for a workforce housing community and a flex development, which requires some publicly accessible open space. Another unique thing to point out here, all of these structures are 1 story or 1.5 stories. They average 2 bedrooms per structure, with an equal weighting of 1 and 3 bedroom structures, and most of them being 2 bedrooms. And they all face in on each other, so there's communal space between each of the homes in these clusters. And another important thing, and what I have, what's been the guiding principle for me over the 2+ years now that I've been pursuing the property, is that all of these homes will be for year-round occupancy. So we would permanently deed restrict the property to year-round occupancy, and we'll achieve whatever level of affordability we can based on construction costs and subsidies which may be available. So I intend to make the homes affordable in perpetuity based on an average salary paid on Nantucket to firefighters and police officers. So a similar pricing structure to the Housing Needs Covenant program, except that instead of taking an average of all salaries on the island, you take a smaller look and look just at public safety officials on Nantucket. And seeing that my green is almost up on the clock, I will end there, and I'm available for questions now or next week.
Peter? Put your microphone on, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Stephen, what do you anticipate the average price per unit to be at this point?
The target is, and again, this is largely dependent on subsidies. If we can achieve subsidies in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, then the sale prices would be $650,000 to $950,000 per unit. And I took that $400,000 to $500,000 range based on it's about 2/3 per unit of what's being paid for instance, the recent acceleration of construction of already planned units within the Richmond Great Point development, which happens to immediately butt this property.
Thank you.
Jeremy and then Joe?
Steve, when you say that you're going to maintain pricing to be affordable to the public safety workers' salaries, how does that work since you're going to sell these homes, or are you going to rent them?
So the mechanism that I'm hoping to achieve is making this the first project for the Nantucket Community Land Trust, which as I stand here tonight, I don't know if it's fully been formed. I know that Tucker Holland's been hard at work at it over the last couple of years. And to be crystal clear, I don't have any formal agreement with him, but the goal would be to have the Community Land Trust or somebody like the Community Land Trust own the land and also put those types of restrictions on. There are other models for developments like this where they're, for instance, the Housing Needs Covenant program that applies to properties island-wide, where the value of the home is capped based on an array of factors, but including interest rates on January 1st of each year, and then publicly available median income information for the county of Nantucket. So I don't know exactly the mechanism. There's not a direct corollary to anything here on the island, but it would be something like that, just looking at a different basket of salaries.
So there will be some constraining mechanism economically to,
So my vision is that there would be a constraint to the future value, but not to the income that the occupants can achieve. So for instance, if you're in a two-income household and you earn more than the 150% of median income, which is the maximum allowable for the Housing Needs Covenant program, you would still be eligible for this development, but you can't outbid somebody just because you can afford to do so. So the value of the homes I would see rising over time, although that's not the primary objective here.
thank you.
Joe?
Stephen, Madam Chair, Stephen, have you checked the water? Have you done testing of the water in this area?
We have done testing of the water, and importantly, this property is already serviced by town water, so it doesn't get water from the immediate area.
Okay, so there's no issues with the stuff that's come off the airport?
I don't believe so, and you all have seen in letters regarding this article and also the proposal to add this property to the sewer district, some discussion of PFAS, and the proponent, I suppose that's me, having used PFAS as a reason that the property ought to be connected to sewer. And frankly, I don't know where that came from. I don't believe that there are PFAS here. And even if there were, that wouldn't be a good reason to add the property to the sewer district. There are other good reasons, which I outlined in a letter that I sent to you all today when I mistakenly thought that's what we were talking about here today. And we can go over those next week. But no, I don't think that there's PFAS here.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Joe? Okay, go ahead.
So if you're going to, it sounds like you want to target certain income levels and people that actually live here year-round, right? That.
Yeah, people that live here year-round, what income levels I think would probably be driven more by where subsidy money comes from.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Like,
Yeah.
if you get subsidy, then all of a sudden, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, and
Restricted.
so it's important to me that they're only local subsidies, if there are any, so that we have local control. One of the visions that I had for this property was creating housing for people who had to go to work during COVID. If these jobs are important enough that we sent them to work in the plague, then they probably deserve housing here. And creating housing that I would be proud to live in is the goal here. So stick-built homes, energy neutral, meaning they produce as much energy as they use. Freestanding homes, there certainly is room in the marketplace for attached apartments, but that's not what I'm hoping to achieve here.
But it's a possibility that you'd go to apartments if Steve Cohen's article on apartments passed.
No, absolutely not. And actually, the definition of apartments in Nantucket allows for something that looks just like this, where I don't understand it, but apartment buildings can be multiple structures completely detached from one another. But if I'm unsuccessful with the zoning change in September, I won't be back with a 40B or a CN. CN is the property immediately to the north, with apartment complex. We'll likely sell the land. Current zoning doesn't allow for development that is likely to be affordable to year-round people, and that's what I'm interested in producing. If it's not here, somebody else will build something else here.
Okay.
Peter?
Stephen, I'm trying to figure out where this is. Using the FedEx building, Where is this layout to that?
You mean UPS building?
No, does,
Do you mean Cape Cod Express?
is it past, is it down, it's past,
It's right behind Richmond,
behind?
Richmond, but it's like wedged in between I'm
behind
Richmond
Richmond,
and then
okay.
everyone
Okay,
that lives down Skyline and
I get
Woodland.
it now, okay. And have you had the property tested? Because it was a junkyard before?
We tested for what, I guess would be the question. Water, yes, but again, the water comes from Milestone Road, from town wells. We
And was
are.
there oil in there? Is there,
Yeah, there is oil. On Monday, we had John Hedden from the Health Department was there. We had Fire Prevention Officer Kevin Ramus. I'm going to forget the name of the deputy chief who's on the state hazmat team and is very knowledgeable on these things. We've been in contact with Mass DEP. We have Robert B. Hours in charge of the cleanup, and they're actively removing construction and demolition waste and cars and things. That's all happening right now. And we have a firm named Boston Green, who's a hazmat specialist. So they're overseeing all this. But DEP has seen the site. They don't think that they need to be involved at this point. So we're proceeding with the cleanup as directed by health and fire officials locally.
Great, thank you.
Any further is there anyone online?
No, Madam Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one hand raised now. Back here. Erica would like to talk.
Okay, thank you. Erica, go ahead. 2 minutes.
Sorry, I got muted. I just wanted to speak against this article. I believe I sent all of you a copy of the letter that I sent to the planning board last week. Just talking about this particular lot. It is partially in the Lug 2, partially in R20, so that ranges from 20,000 square foot lots to 80,000 square foot lots, minimum lot size, and the proposal is to put it down to 5,000 square foot lots. I would say that 5,000 square foot lots is not contiguous to this parcel. So I do question if it would be considered spot zoning. And again, this property is located in the country overlay district. The purpose of the country overlay district is to discourage development and preserve areas characterized by traditional and historic rural land use patterns, to discourage the spread of dispersed development patterns that promote automobile dependency and are costly to build and maintain. This kind of development belongs in the town overlay district. And I just wanted to note that I'm happy to hear that RBO and Boston Green is doing a site cleanup because the health department did receive a complaint and the property revealed numerous violations, including temporary housing. People were living on site in a trailer. There's areas of maintenance in a sanitary and safe condition. They said that there is propane tanks, oil tanks, fuel tanks, waste oil, chemical containers that could endanger or impair the health, safety, or well-being. And this is definitely an unpermitted junkyard. So I'm thankful to Stephen for doing site cleanup. I will note too that the planning board did vote not to adopt this article, and the Surfside Association also sent a letter saying that they recommend that town meeting not adopt.
Erica, if you could bring it to a close, please.
I'm done.
Okay.
But I thought I had 3 minutes, but thank you.
Yeah, 2 minutes. So I probably did say 3 at the beginning, but in any case.
That's the public comment policy for the town of Nantucket is 3 minutes.
Thank you for the correction, Erica. Okay, any other questions from the committee before we move on? Okay, all right.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, Stephen.
Thanks. I just want to say that I appreciate the time to go over this. I didn't have quite as much time at planning to go over some of the details here. And as I said, this property will not come back before you, at least when I own it, for a 40B or anything that would circumvent the important process, which is to see if the community values what might happen with this land. And the compressed time frame for a special town meeting didn't allow for a lot of discussion with planning. And so I'll do a lot of work to try to get the information out, and this was a good opportunity. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I mean, you can come back, obviously, well, you will be back on Monday. So when we go through the planning recommendations on all the articles, and you can speak again then.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, Article 14, Stephen, are you going to stay standing? Bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Town Sewer District Map Change 13 and 13A Woodland Drive.
Thank you. I guess I wasn't totally wrong that we would talk about sewer, but I understand that we don't have a recommendation from the sewer commissioners
No.
yet. But I believe, as finance committee members, you've seen the checklist from it was signed by David Gray, it was signed by John Hedden, and it shows that this property scored a 6 out of 14, meaning 6 yes answers on the sewer checklist out of the required 9 that you need to get approval, or a positive recommendation for a property to join the sewer district. But there are a few items which I think weren't properly understood, or maybe they were clerical errors. The simplest is the lot size less than 40,000 square feet? 13 and 13A Woodland Drive are separate parcels. One of them is less than 40,000 square feet. I think that should have been a yes answer. Also, half the property is in the R20 zoning district, where we could create 4, probably only 4 A&R, meaning approval not required lots, which would each be less than 40,000 square feet. I think that should have been a yes answer. Is this an affordable housing project? The question specifically stipulates Chapter 40R, which is impossible to do on Nantucket because we don't have this smart housing zoning overlay district. But we did create the workforce housing community bylaw, which is essentially the same thing. It requires the same level of affordability as a 40B, but keeps everything within zoning and under local purview. That's what I'm intending to use here. So the community benefit of affordability for the housing would be provided in exactly the same way as 40B or 40R. And I think for that reason, the project deserved a yes for that one. Is the property in one of the following overlay districts? I won't enumerate them because I didn't write them down. But one of them, the first one, is Wellhead Protection District. This property is in the Wellhead Protection District. So we got a no on the checklist. We should have had a yes. And is an alternative septic system required? I was told today by Kathy Flynn, one of the inspectors in the health department, that by virtue of being in the Wellhead Protection District, you are required to do an IA system. And that comports with what I see in the online records for neighboring properties. The 3 properties immediately to the west of this, all on Woodland Drive, have all been required over the last few years to install IA, innovative alternative septic systems, although one did get a variance for several years, after which that property has to tie into sewer. How can it tie into sewer? That we're not in, every other property on Woodland Drive is in the sewer district. This is the only one that isn't. It seems appropriate that at the very least, the R20 section of this property should be in the sewer district. One of the questions on the sewer checklist preamble is, do on-site septic systems perform well and fit in the neighborhood? Apparently they don't, because all of the conventional septic systems are being forced to be replaced with IA systems when properties transfer or when any modifications are made to the property. Last point, master plan compliance. Does the property comply with the 2009 master plan? Policy 7.6.2 of the plan says that we should include lots in the wellhead protection zone and other environmentally sensitive areas in the sewer district. So we know that the property is in the wellhead protection zone, so it does, adding the property to the sewer district would comply with the 2009 master plan. The checklist says no. I believe that answer should be yes. And then briefly before the green runs out, addressing concerns raised in letters that were sent to your board. Neighborhood impact, they talk about the fact that more density, more bedrooms can be built on the property if it's added to sewer, and that's absolutely true. But from the sewer checklist preamble, private property development and use is managed through zoning rather than access to public water and centralized wastewater. So in other words, if you don't want the property developed, fight the zoning, don't fight sewer. Sewer, if it's available to the rest of the neighborhood, should be available here. PFAS claims, there's a lot of claims that I'm saying that the property should be added to the sewer district because there are PFAS. I don't believe there are, and even if there are PFAS, I wouldn't think that would be a good reason to add sewer. The property's out of compliance with zoning bylaws. I absolutely agree. When I purchased the property, it was an unlicensed junkyard. We are actively removing proper equipment from the site and cleaning it up under direction of all the local and state authorities. And then I'm doing this only for financial gain, and I have no connection to the neighborhood. If the community doesn't think that the benefits of my proposal outweigh the impacts, then they should vote no. And that's what we'll find out in September. And then the property will be used under current zoning, and that'll be the end of it.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions, Jill?
So if the zoning doesn't pass, well, let's say the sewer pass and then the zoning, the down zoning doesn't pass, then what are you going to do with the property? I'm hearing you, it sounds like you want to build 6 houses there, or is it 5? Sorry. Under existing zoning.
I don't know. We would do something under existing zoning. I don't know what that would be. This has been my vision. I have one partner on the project. I got him interested in the vision, which requires rezoning. It was suggested to me after Monday's planning board meeting that maybe I ought to look at doing a friendly 40B. I won't do that. I enjoy being married, and I will not put myself and put my wife through that. So that is not an option for me. I think this is sort of the friendly 40B process. We have the workforce housing community, which allows for increased density in exchange for affordability. It requires also that town meeting changes zoning. But if the community benefit isn't apparent, I'm not going to force this upon people. I'll make as best a case I can, and then we'll move forward if we are not successful.
Other questions? Any online?
We have 2 online, Madam Chair. Matt Peel and Art Gasparo both have their hand raised, so Matt Peel had his hand raised first. So.
Okay. All right. Matt, please go ahead, and you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Actually, do you mind going to Art first? I'm driving home, and I'm about 30 seconds away from home. So if you want to let Art and then come back to me, I can have a better, more stable connection.
That's fine. Thank you, Matt. We'll hear from you in a minute. Brian, please. I love this little clock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
I apologize for not being there, and if there's any background noise, I'm actually having to stand outside of the Board of Health meeting because both of these are scheduled at the same time. I strenuously disagree with some of Mr. Maury's assertions regarding the checklist. I'm very much opposed to all of these articles. We can go through a whole lot of reasons, but primarily there is the sewer treatment plant to be considered. This property was not considered in the master planning associated with the sizing of that plant. That's just going to put a greater burden on the rest of the island and the existing ratepayers. The increased density of development that would result from sewer and or zoning change is completely unwarranted and unneeded. It's going to have tremendous negative impacts on the surrounding community and neighborhood. The Surfside Association has come out unanimously against this, all of these articles as well. And so I appreciate that Mr. Maury says if everyone doesn't want it, he won't do it. And I would appreciate if the Finance Committee likewise did not support these articles. I don't believe that they're justified. To the point regarding IA septic systems, they are not required. I've been signing septic systems on Nantucket for almost 30 years. Within the Wellhead Protection District, and people do them for bedroom bonus or some of the R20 lots on Woodland. as a result of having undersized systems. So the checklists that were done, they weren't even close. You needed 9 points. I think he had 4 on one of them and maybe 6 on the other. And so you had both your sewer director and your chief environmental officer both sign off. I don't understand why planning didn't also sign those forms, but regardless, I think that it would be poor planning policy, poor fiscal policy to support these articles. And I very much would support and hope that the finance committee would support negative recommendations on all of the articles. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. And just to reiterate, we will be discussing them again on Monday when when Dave Iverson and Leslie Snell are here to share with us the results of the planning board's discussion and recommended motions. So thank you. Is Matt back available, Brian?
Hi. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, Matt, go ahead. You have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it brief as well, and just kind of agree with everything that Art just said as well. I'm also a board member of the Surfside Association, and we did last Saturday vote unanimously to strongly oppose this article as well as a few others, and the one on Woodland and the apartments as well. So it was unanimous across the board for all these articles, especially the zoning changes and the sewer. We're just very concerned about it. This is a nice, quiet, peaceful neighborhood. And this would drastically change the neighborhood. You got Webster over there, which is essentially a 1-lane road, and that's going to leave a lot of the traffic. I mean, have 100 more cars coming through there or coming down Skyline. We just got this repaved. This neighborhood's been through a lot with PFAS. This is kind of pile on to it as well. And I think Erica made a lot of great points as well. So I just want to, I commend Stephen for what he's doing. I think that, the workforce housing is definitely needed, but unfortunately, I think this is just not the place for it. Just the density and all of that really put a strain on this neighborhood. That's already been through a lot already, but thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Brian, is there anyone else online?
No, Madam Chair. Nobody raised with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Oh, Jeremy, you had a question?
I had a question for Steve. Given that a good hunk of this is very legalistic, and given that it seems like a lot of it pivots on getting the sewer, I was wondering if you could possibly provide an analysis or just a write-up of what you said on all the different points.
Yes.
Because then we can get around the he said, she said issue and actually see something.
Yes. So I did provide that. What I was reading from is a letter which I sent to.
You sent to me and I forwarded it to the finance committee this afternoon.
I'm just realizing I printed, and I hope I didn't send to you, one addressed to Chair Moore and the sewer commissioners. So it's exactly the same letter. But
I figured as much. Well, I thought you were just sharing what you sent to them. So I then forwarded it to everybody's email this afternoon.
Okay.
But it was, again, late breaking news, I would offer. So you all might not have seen it, obviously. So interestingly, just as a data point, which I know you'll be fascinated by, I rarely see anything 2 hours before a meeting. So if people send me stuff, if I happen to see it, it's really a Christmas miracle, because 2 hours before the meeting, I'm getting organized, thinking through, doing other things. So this I happened to see and did send to everybody, but usually I would not have. There we go. Okay. Go ahead, Jill.
So I hear you say that you don't want to do it if the neighbors don't want you to do it. Do you have any neighbors that do want to do it? Because we've only heard negative response.
Yes, I do. And that tends to be the way things work, is that people who are okay or ambivalent or accepting of something, they don't take time out of their day to stamp their foot and say so. However, I do think that there are community issues at stake here, in addition to the immediate neighborhood of Woodland Drive. I think that there are benefits here that ought to be considered by the entire island. And so I do take to heart all of the concerns of the immediate neighbors. and they're not to be discounted. You know, there will be more traffic. There will be more traffic no matter what gets built here, but there will be more traffic if the property is rezoned and added to sewer. And I am not hiding from that fact. I also think that the community benefit is greater than those detriments. And a point that's germane to the Finance Committee, and I'm glad that it just came to mind, the proposal here would be, would allow for the construction of homes at a lower price of subsidy than we've seen in other projects with more dense and I think in some ways less desirable housing. And so that is something to be considered as well.
So with that, do you have an endorsement from the Affordable Housing Trust? Since I realize they're not part of it, but it sounds like you think you have a structure that maybe they would endorse?
I hope to be heard at their August 16th meeting. And thank you for jogging my memory on another point. I have been trying to get an audience with David Gray to talk about some of these issues for more than 3 weeks, not quite a month. And we've had a holiday in there, and I know he had a planned vacation, but you know, some of these questions, if I'm mistaken and Mr. Gasparo is right about those points, they can be cleared up, but I haven't had the opportunity to speak with the officials about it.
Okay, and just one final point. So it sounds like with the neighbors, what you're saying is the whole island is the neighborhood.
No, I do appreciate and I respect that the people who live most proximate to this development, their concerns are different and they shouldn't be ignored, and I'm not ignoring them. But I also think that there's a community benefit that should not be ignored.
Madam Chair, Jonah has her hand up as well. just so
Okay,
you know.
first Peter, and then I'll go to Joanna. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Stephen, one thing I just want to say is, this might not be the right place for this, I don't know, and I have to study it more, but this is the kind of thing that I was encouraging Nantucket's Housing Department to be looking at, rather than ones and twos all over the place. I commend you for the thinking. I just wish we had this kind of thinking throughout the town, and we started looking at other ways we can implement these individual houses and allow people to have appropriate living quarters. So thank you for the idea.
Thank you, Peter. Joanna?
Sure. I actually agree with what Peter said. I think that if we're going to, I think this is a bigger issue in the sense that we as a group are really discussing and determining whether or not, or how really we are going to permit or support or allow, whatever word we're going to use, different types of development on the island. And I think that we've had our share of conversation about different types of 40B developments, and this is outside of that. I think the question that I have for Stephen is, if all of the things line up in the way that you hope that they will, what is the actual chance that all of this could work? You know what you understand what I'm asking? Like, what is the chance that you could get something like this to work? We've heard all of the sort of outlying things. Okay, the 6 points, the 9 points, the neighbors, right?
Sure.
The sewer. Like, if all of the ducks line up, what are the chances that something like this can actually be executed by a private developer?
I will throw out some ifs, and you can tell me if I've put in too many or too few. If the property is added to the sewer district, and if it is rezoned into the R5 district, the density that you see before you, you don't see before you, but you will, is allowable under the workforce housing community and the flex development provisions. So those were added to our zoning bylaw in order to promote affordable year-round housing. It doesn't require that more than 25% of the development is affordable, but my commitment is to make them as affordable as possible. And we have right now good funding locally available for projects like this. And I can provide this housing at lower per unit costs than other recently funded projects, and certainly much lower than some of the projects that haven't gone forward, like the 135, 137 Orange Street project. And I can show examples of small-scale tertiary dwelling construction that is similar to what I hope to achieve, although there's other aspects that are exciting here, like energy neutrality and passive home status, things that I don't know all that much about and that frankly don't exist on Nantucket yet. But when you're building at this kind of scale, they are achievable. And I think it's a neat opportunity. If it doesn't end up being here because the neighborhood and the community doesn't support it, I would hope to find another location. But part of the reason that this is possible here is the price at which I was able to buy the property, because it was a junkyard, and I was willing to take the risk on what would be the cost and what would be the things we'd discover there. So it's going to be difficult to find a replacement property on this scale that would also allow for the affordability that we can achieve here.
Thank you.
Brian, anyone else online?
There are no other hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to Article 1. Brian, is there anyone? Now it's you and me, Brian.
No hands raised, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Unless Curtis wants to speak. No, okay.
I cannot find in my emails what you might have spent.
Okay, but we'll do that offline, Jeremy, not now. Okay, thank you. Article 2.
No hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Oh, I should be reading the articles. Article 1 was the Select Board zoning bylaw amendment regulating Nantucket vacation rentals. Article 2 is Charity Ben's zoning bylaw amendment regulating short-term rental use. Charity did email me today, and I told her that she did not need to attend the public hearing, that she could attend on Monday with the planning board, and that's what she will do instead. So she did ask me if she should be here. Article 3, Stephen Cohen, zoning bylaw amendment regulating short-term rental use. That will be on Monday, and that will be represented by Stephen Maury, I believe. Correct? Thank you. Anybody online?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Article 4, Grant Sanders zoning bylaw amendment regulating short-term rental use. Again on Monday. I realize I'm a broken record, but there we go.
No hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. How did you know? That's what I was going to ask. Okay. Article 5, Pamela Perrin. We spoke to Pamela 2 days ago. General bylaw amendment, short-term rentals.
No hands raised, Madam Chair.
And thank you. And we had motion take no action. Article 6, Stephen Cohen, general bylaw amendment, short-term rentals.
No hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Penny Dye will be with us on Monday to discuss that article. We deferred it till then. Article 7, Matthew Peel, general bylaw amendment, short-term rentals. Looking at you, Brian.
There are no hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we had, it's fun up here today. We discussed that 2 days ago, and it was motion take no action. And that brings to a close all the articles for the special town meeting in September at the public hearing. Any questions from the committee before I go on to the next agenda item? Which is the next meeting is Monday, July 22nd at 4 PM in the trailer. And I believe from an email from Erica today, I think we've been upgraded to room A. I know, it's very special. Thank you, Erica, for that help. And then again, just as a reminder, the 23rd is canceled, and the 25th will be our final meeting. And that will be the sewer articles unless something gets deferred from Monday's meeting. Any other business from Jill?
I was just going to ask, is town council going to be there on Monday?
I do not know, but I will ask them to be there.
Because we're expected to make
He's
motions
online
there.
right now, Madam Chair. So
Oh, John?
John might be able to answer that question for you.
Okay, great.
John, can you attend Monday, the 22nd at 4 PM? I hadn't previously asked you to be there. We're going through the zoning articles.
Right. Madam Chair, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Yeah, I guess the other question, though, just so I can plan my week, is whether you want me for Thursday, the 25th as well. And I'm happy to attend, so.
Let's just say yes, because in case anything's deferred that ends up being controversial on Monday, then we will
Okay.
definitely need you on the 25th. So let's just say yes.
Okay, sounds
That
good.
one's fully remote, John. So,
Okay.
well, you're remote for all of them, but that one is fully remote as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business from members of the committee? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Everybody's zippy about this. So, Peter? Jill? Jeremy?
Aye.
Joe? Stephen? Joanna?
Aye.
I think Chris is gone, or?
No, I'm here.
Chris still there. Oh, Chris, you're still there. Thank
And I am an aye on this particular motion.
you. Okay, thank you, everybody. We're done. Thank you,
Bye.
Brian.
Bye.
Can I end the Zoom?